now that Alaska's over, it's time to switch gears and get ready for my Cape Buffalo setup. And that is going to be using the Hoyt RX-3, and we're going to get this bad boy ready to zip through old Black Death. So step one is get the poundage up. I'm going to be shooting about 85 to 86 pounds out of this bad boy with a big old heavy arrow. And we're going to build the entire thing right now. You guys are going to see what I'm taking. Okay, so this year I'm going to try the new Hamskea Trinity Pro Hunter. I just had a lot of bad luck with the QAD, arm breaking. So I'm going to try a limb-driven rest now, which is pretty new for me, honestly. I haven't done this yet, use this style of rest. So far it shoots really great. Pretty excited to give it a try. So we're going to slap this bad boy on here and go from there. Let's do it. So where I always start is looking down the center of the bow, and then I want to get the center of the rest to go down the center of the bow. That's kind of my starting point. So I'm going to move everything until it's dead nut center. Okay, so the first thing I want to do after I put the rest on, before I send an arrow through, is check the cam timing. So you want the draw stops to come and touch the cables at the exact same time. And that's these guys right here. And the reason for that is that lets you know that the cams are going to come together at the same time. The limbs are come together at the same time, and you're not going to have any weird arrow flight. So if one cam is faster than the other cam, then obviously that means that limb is going to come up faster than the other limb, and you're going to see that in your arrow flight. And so what people do is they try to tune around that with the rest. And that's not a good idea. That's like if you're driving your car down the road and it's pulling to the right pretty hard and you're letting air out of a tire to basically compensate for the pull and keep it driving straight. The point of that analogy is you want to fix the axle or whatever the problem is, and then if you need to fine-tune things, then you can do it in the rest. So obviously you want to start getting the basics of the bow as perfect as possible. So that starts with timing the cams. And you can see this Hoyt is absolutely perfect. So I pulled this off just a touch to where it's not touching up top, and down there looks like it's just barely touching. So the top is just a tick slow in comparison to the bottom. So what I'm going to do is see if I get a tear left or tear right, because with it being so incredibly close, it probably just needs 1/2 turn of one of the yokes in order for it to time up perfect. So if I get a left tear or right tear, I can put a 1/2 turn in the yoke and kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So let's put an arrow together and see how she shoots. So now we're going to choose the arrow to hunt a Cape Buffalo, and I got 2 of them here, and I'm going to do tests with both of them and figure out which one will work better. The first arrow we have is the Easton's Dangerous Game. Now this is an FMJ shaft, and this bad boy is 17.7 grains per inch at a 5mm, which it actually is a little bit bigger. Huge aluminum core, or aluminum outside with a thick carbon core. This arrow is pretty much indestructible. And then we have an Easton Pro Comp, which is a 4mm shaft, but this is a 250 spine, so it's got a thinner aluminum wall with a carbon outside. So you can see the differences here on size here. One has a carbon core with aluminum outside, the other one has an aluminum inside with a carbon outside. Now this 250 spine shaft is actually stiffer than this. Well, it's actually about the same, so they're both 250 spined. This will be the arrow that I hunt with this year for everything else. So I really would like to get this arrow built to where it can hunt a Cape Buffalo, but I'm afraid I'll have to use too much point weight and it'll break down the spine too much and I'll end up having too weak of a spine, but we're going to find out. So how we're going to build the Dangerous Game arrow is we're going to run the Easton's brass inserts at 75 grains and then run a 250 grain CutThroat solid broadhead for this, and that should put this bad boy After fletchings, all that, cut to my length should be over 850, almost 900 grains. And this arrow, if I use Ethics Archery's 170 grain insert, which is this guy right here, 170 grains with a 250 grain point, a 4 fletch with light and knock, all of that included, should equal out darn near right at 800 grains. So we're looking at an 800 grain arrow build plus a 900 grain arrow build. This arrow is significantly more tough, but it could get less penetration because of how much larger it is. I don't think so, because it's going to weigh 100 grains more. So this, I'm like 90% sure this will be the arrow I use, but we will see if we can get this Pro Comp to work as well. So let's get started. So the first arrow we're going to build is going to be the Easton's Dangerous Game. So the FMJ is getting put together right now. Let's do it. 75 grains of brass going in. Just triple check everything fits nice. Yeah, I'd say that is going to be pretty nasty. Okay, well, for a quick recap here, we already timed the cams, everything's going. I rough ballparked getting the rest down the middle of the bow, so we're going to shoot it through paper and just kind of see where it sits, and then make some fine-tune adjustments from there. First shot with the Cape Buffalo arrow setup. Here we go. Whew. That is no joke. Wow. Alright, so we're looking at right here's where the arrow went in, a low right tear. So Full Metal Jackets make it nice. So low right, well, that means we're just going to adjust the rest up and a rest down. So let me find the wrenches here. So we're going to take the rest down. See what that does. Alright, so it's coming up. Still pretty significantly tear right, but you can see that it is coming up, so we just need to keep going a little bit lower. Okay. We're also going to move the rest for that significant tear right. As you can see, I actually have room to do that too. So we'll just kind of move this out. Alright. Definitely getting closer. So I actually moved it too far. So you can see here, it was tail right and low, now it's tail left. So that's pretty good. That means I'm going to be able to get out the left and right, which is typically the sign that the spine is going to be too weak. So I don't think it's going to be underspined, which is going to be great. So I'm going to put a half a turn in this. Put a half a turn in just one side, because this top cam is a tick slow. So this should help time it up nicely and get everything ready to roll. So let's see how it does. It's getting close. Well, I just checked the cam timing, and the cam timing is so perfect. I can't do anything with the cams. My rest can't go any lower, so I originally had this D-loop put on for a QAD rest. So now that I've switched to shooting the Hamskea, this whole setup is, this D-loop's not going to work for this rest. So I have to now move my D-loop up. So So alright, that is what we're going to do. Alright, we tied on a new D-loop and moved the D-loop up to get rid of that tear low. So here we go. Let's see what happens. That's what you want right there. Okay. I guessed the right distance on the D-loop. I expected to have to move it around a little bit, but that's pretty good. So I'm super happy with that. And the penetration's almost going to the concrete wall. So I know that's good. It's going through the whole length of this target. So yeah, this is actually pretty exciting. Step one is down. So we have our 900 grain arrow built, ready to roll, but it's still a bare shaft. And that's important to understand what a bare shaft does and why I prefer to tune it with a bare shaft. So the point of the fletchings is to correct errors in your shot. So it helps steer and guide the arrow and correct any error maybe that you had in your form. So when you take off the vanes, any error in the spine or the tune of the arrow will be magnified, especially at this distance with a bare shaft. I mean, it'll go crazy, whip right, whip left, up and down. So if you can do this with a bare shaft and get a perfect flighting arrow, then whenever you put fletchings on there, it's just going to be that much more forgiving and that much more accurate. So 900 grain arrow, bare shaft. This is way more than 20 yards. I'd probably say 25 to 26 yards. And we're going to shoot that green dot back there. It's about the size of a 50-cent piece. And bare shaft. Here we go. I'd say it's shooting pretty good. 86 pounds with a 900 grain arrow. I can shoot through 2 buffaloes. So now that I bare shaft tuned everything, it's perfect. But what I want to do is take it to another level. This is another advanced level of tuning, and it's called line tuning. So I'm going to aim at this line, and I'm going to purposely sight it into where it hits high so I don't actually hit the line. So I'll aim along this line, and then these arrows will hit something like this, most likely. And then I will adjust the sight until the arrows are all in a perfect line like this, or just the rest, I should say. So that is the goal. I want a perfect linear line like this, and I will micro adjust my rest until I do that. And then the same thing vertical. I aim at the vertical line. I'll get a hit like this, probably like this, and like this. And then I will adjust my rest accordingly until I get it perfectly in line like this. So that's the goal, and that will be the most advanced tuning I could possibly do for my bow to get it ready for a Cape buffalo hunt. So let's get started. That was a perfect shot. That one was a touch low. All right. All in all, that's pretty good, honestly. The last one that cut loose was a touch low, so I really wouldn't count it. So, I mean, we are really close. So what I think I'll do is make a small adjustment and see if it gets better. That one was a little low. Yeah, I had 3 absolutely perfect shots. This one wasn't perfect. So if you look at that, that is darn near perfect. Some people go as crazy as, and I would if I had super calm conditions, but when you lay an arrow on top of it, the arrow should be able to touch all the arrows. So you can see that one's a little bit higher, but I am doing this at 30 yards, and we're talking about a 1/2 inch gap here, so I don't know if I'm good enough to shoot out the difference in that, especially with a 900 grain arrow. So we're gonna move on to the vertical one and see if there's much difference there. And then we'll put on a broadhead and see how she shoots. Yeah, so that's not exactly perfect. So you can kind of see how there's, every one when it cut loose was perfect, and this one's kind of in, out, in, and out. So I'm going to adjust my rest. Again, you just kind of guess. I'm going to adjust it in a little and see if that makes any difference. You can do in or out, just see. So I'm going to go in, just a couple clicks, and see if that makes any difference, and we'll shoot again and see what happens. That was perfect. That one was also perfect. Alrighty, let's go take a look. Okay, this was the last one. It did not feel very good, so if I pull that one out, we're looking at a pretty darn close one. So I think that's about right. So now what I want to do is I want to sight it in at 20 yards. So I'll aim here and sight it in until it hits here, and then I'll do the same thing with this, and that means I'll have a perfectly sighted in bow. Well guys, we have our African death darts completely built. This is 900 grains with a 250 grain broadhead on the end of this, and I'm shooting a Hoyt RX-3 at 86 pounds. So you're talking about a crazy spear shooting out of this bow at unbelievable speeds and kinetic energy. So what we're gonna do is still test it to make sure that this is as lethal as it could possibly get. So I couldn't think of anything more crazy than shooting through a car hood. So I feel like if it can shoot through this car hood, that it will absolutely crush a Cape Buffalo's ribs. And so I feel like this is gonna be fun. We're gonna film it from multiple angles. We got 1,000 frames per second set up right there. We got a GoPro set up for a super tight shot, filming 240 frames per second. And then we're gonna have a camera running over my shoulder at 120 frames per second back at 20 yards. So we're gonna draw up a dart, or a dot, right in the center here, just for a little bullseye. So it looks like right about here is gonna be the spot we're gonna wanna aim at. All right, looks good to me. Let's shoot this bad boy. Well, we're about 20 yards from the car hood down there. So this is my complete African setup, and this is the Dangerous Game by Easton with a 250 grain broadhead. It's a CutThroat single bevel. Total arrow weight 900 grains, and the bow is a Hoyt RX-3 at 86 pounds. So this thing is gonna hopefully zip right through that car hood. Here we go. Everybody ready? Okay. Okay, I think Sarah got it on slow motion. It looked like it went right through the hood.
Turn it off now?
No, don't touch it, don't touch it. Okay. It has to, it's recording.
For like 4 seconds, right?
No, it'll record for 2 minutes, but it only has 4 seconds. Okay.
God, that smell.
Wow, check this out. So it went straight through the car hood. We were a little bit further than 20 yards. Hang on, Sarah, don't touch it. We got this pass through all the way. We're another probably 8 yards from the hood there, and it ripped off some fletchings, which was expected. But the arrow itself is completely intact. Everything looks great. I think this is gonna kill a buffalo, a rhino, and an elephant all in one shot. This is insane. So cool stuff. The arrow is actually still straight. That is so crazy. Awesome. Let's do it again. So that was a 900 grain Dangerous Game arrow build. This is an 800 grain arrow build. This is an Easton 250 spine Pro Comp, and it's an aluminum core with a carbon outside, 170 grain insert with a 250 grain broadhead, which is how this gets up to 800 grains. So this arrow is not designed by any means to be durable enough to blast through this, but I would like to use this setup if I can get it to work great. So we're gonna test this out and see how this does against the car hood, because clearly that 900 grain dangerous game arrow build, I mean, just crushed it. I mean, it went completely through the car hood, plus an additional 7 yards past the car hood. So I'm curious to see what happens to this. You ready down there? All right, so Sarah's gonna get that rolling. This is the Pro Comp 800 grain build. Everybody ready? All right, we got a complete pass through with that one too. Hit dead center of the bullseye. Oh snap. And to my surprise, the arrow is not shattered. Like, I expected that arrow to break. Now, we obviously got some vein damage and whatnot, but the arrow stayed in good condition. Like, that is extremely impressive. So this is actually a target arrow that Easton makes, and they made me 250 grains or 250 spined ones, and it has a pretty thick carbon wall, and I am extremely impressed. I mean, it zipped right through there. It didn't quite get as far as the dangerous game one, but it definitely got a complete pass through on a car hood. I mean, we're talking steel, and that thing shoots straight through it. So I don't see why I shouldn't use this in Africa. I don't know, I'll do some more testing. Well, it's safe to say both of these setups are absolutely devastating to anything on this that walks this earth. I can't imagine how this could actually be stopped by any bone of any kind, considering it just shot through a car hood. So I'm excited. This weekend we are heading to Africa, and I will be having one of these two arrows. I'm gonna try to get this arrow tuned well and see how it does. If not, I'll just go with the dangerous game arrow, because this thing's an absolute beast. So anyway, Africa, here we come.